As we chat to you about what's going on in the world of sports, college basketball, the big theme. Wenzel, some thoughts early. We'll take you right up until 6 in the East, 3 in the West on our Monday program. All right, now, I did not see this live. I turned the game. The game was a bore. So, I mean, I never thought Florida State was going to win the game. They can't shoot. Boat into an ocean. They can't make a shot. They're athletic. They block a ton of shots. I mean, they got lots of great athletes and size, but their offense comes from hunger if they don't get an offensive rebound. And so I never, despite the fact the game was, right there at the end, I never thought that Michigan was going to lose. I swear. And the game was a very forgettable game. Now, I turned it off immediately. Remember, that was the second game on Saturday night. That game probably began around 9 o'clock, right? So for whatever the reason, I went elsewhere. I don't know if I went to bed. I don't even remember. I'm into this Ruth Garrick book. I may have been on top of that. Who knows? But the bottom line is I was out of the game. So I did not see this live. And it wasn't until yesterday when I saw Leonard Hamilton issue a quote-unquote, an apology through the FSU athletic office that I realized that there was a problem. Now, I got a couple things to say about it. Hamilton, the Florida State coach, Dana Jacobson, who's a good reporter, and, normally I'm with her on this stuff. Here's, after the game, this is her question and answer period with Hamilton. I believe this was a TBS game, if I'm not mistaken. And here's what she had to ask Hamilton right after the game. Listen up.
Take me through the final seconds of this game. Why didn't you guys foul?
What are you talking about?
Down the stretch there, the end of the game, the final seconds, 11 seconds left on the clock.
Do you think that the game came down to the final seconds of the game?
I'm asking you, though, why that decision in the final seconds of the game?
The game was over.
You didn't think your guys could get back in it, put them on the line if they miss those shots?
I mean, but 15 seconds, what were we down?
Put them on the line, they miss a few shots. Coach, a 4-point ball game, it's a question that the guys were asking at the end of our game. That's all I'm asking. It didn't come down to that in your mind.
I thought they did a great job.
Okay, now Dana gets a tremendous job for not losing any poise, and hanging in there and sticking with it. I get that, and Hamilton was obviously a little forgetful, and you definitely have to foul. But this is where I'm going to differ with everybody. The idea that you're down 4 with 11 seconds, the guy's a 90% free throw shooter, and Florida State's over the limit. The idea that that's got to be your first question after that game, I got a major problem. That should not be your first question. Now, I understand that they were discussing it. I believe that was who did that game? That was a Reggie Bonner and Harlan game in L.A., and I understand that they did ask it at the end of that game. That game was over. Hamilton is right about that. Now, he's got to foul. He has to foul there, because, 1 out of a million, they missed 2 free throws, and somehow you can get back and maybe force an overtime, so I understand that. He has to foul, but if that's me, that's not my first question. Okay, I asked the question eventually, but that is not what I'm thinking about going to bed. Oh my God, what a disaster. Hamilton blew the game by not fouling with 11 seconds to go, down 4, when Michigan got a defensive rebound. I mean, that is not what I'm thinking about in that scenario. They had no timeouts left, so they're going to have to rush down the court and essentially hope he misses a free throw or 2, and you come down and maybe you make 2 threes and you got to foul again. I mean, they are not winning the game. And I listen. Dana did a great job hanging in there because, he was obviously flustered and he had forgotten the sequence. And, Hamilton didn't good, that's bad too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to absolve Hamilton here. But the 2 things I will say that are fair, the game is over. Right? That game is, I don't care what Steve Torrey says about some Texas A&M game I don't care about the Louisville-Syracuse game and all this nonsense. I mean, Steve can wax poetic I did this morning with him forever and ever and ever. That game is over. Right, I'm sorry. I think they fouled Duncan Robinson, who's a 90% free throw shooter. We can look up who they actually fouled, and they should have fouled. No argument. I mean, from a basketball perspective, you should foul there, and Hamilton should have fouled. But he's right, too. The game is over. Right? It's 11 seconds to go. They are over the limit. Even if he just you need to make 2 threes and hope they miss 2 out of 4 free throws. That's what you have to make in order for you to get tied in a game. And it's not 1-on-1. They're over the limit. You have to make 2 threes, and you haven't made a 3 the whole game. You got to make 2 threes, and they got to go 2 for 4 from the line in 11 seconds. That is, come on now, huh? Please, that's not. I mean, once in a while, once in a blue moon, in a classic, every 15 years, you might see that. So as a result, that's why Hamilton's got a foul. Theoretically, the game isn't quite over yet, but I have a problem with the first question, and I know why they asked it. Or why Dana asked it, because obviously they were talking about it in the broadcast booth. That's not my first. That's not what I was thinking about as a sports fan. Wow, why didn't he foul? I was thinking about Florida State. Boy, they played hard. They can't make any shots. Their offense was bad. That's got to be frustrating. They couldn't make any jumpers in a big spot. That's what I was thinking about. The overall picture of the game, more so in the last 10, 11 seconds. Down by more than a possession, and they're at the line with a good free throw shooter in 1 plus the bonus. So from that standpoint, I don't like the question. That to me is asking a question because the announcers that you work with, that was what their theme was at the end of that game. That's not the theme of the game. You got 2 or 3 questions there at most with Hamilton. You don't have a ton of time with him. He just lost. That's not the reason why they lost. They didn't lose the game because they didn't foul. That's not the reason. They lost the game because they couldn't score. That is the reason. Eddie, can you give me a box score, please? I want to look at the shooting percentages. They lost that game because they could not throw the ball in the ocean. Their offense killed them in the game. They are not a good offensive team. All right, they scored 65 points against Gonzaga. They scored nothing against Xavier until that last 7 or 8 minutes when Xavier collapsed and vomited on themselves. But they cannot score. They shot in the game. Florida State in this game, folks, shot. Can I see it, please? They were 4 for 17 from 3 and 16 for 51 for the game. Okay? They made their free throws. That's why they lost. Now, they do a tremendous job. They had 36 rebounds, and they had 10 offensive boards. How many rebounds did Michigan have in this game? Michigan had 25 rebounds. So they out-rebounded them 36-25. Oh, I'm sorry. No, even with the rebounds. So they were even with the rebounds. I thought that was the biggest difference in the game. And Michigan didn't shoot the ball well either. This game was a terrible game. Michigan shot 38% and 18% from 3. This game stunk. I mean, let's be honest. Let's call it like we see it now. Let's not go crazy. But when you shoot 4 for 17 from the field and 31% from 2 and 4 for 17 from three-point land, that is the theme of the game. Leonard, you couldn't put the ball in the ocean today. What happened? Boom. Oh, and by the way, 11 seconds ago, did you think about fouling? That's how you handle that. That is asking the question because Reggie Miller wants him to foul. You're not doing the interview for Reggie Miller. You're doing the interview for everybody else. So I did not have a major problem. Now, Hamilton should have handled it better, and he was obviously flustered. He didn't know what the hell she was talking about. So I get that. So he's wrong, too. But I don't like the question. Don't like it. And that game, 71, that game was an absolute snorefest. Oh, my God, was that game bad. They had a bad Saturday. Loyola wins by 40, and that game was was that game bad. Oh, my God. And they did not do well on Friday night. They got a little bump with the Duke game on CBS late, but they had a rough Friday night. I tell you, Duke and Kansas saved this tournament. They got a nice ball game. They got a nice little game with Duke, Kansas. It saved the tournament. Saved the weekend. They died. They absolutely died until that Duke, Kansas game. It wasn't Duke, Kansas that saved the weekend. You know what saved the weekend? Stormy Daniels. 12 after the hour. Steve, it's funny about Steve. Steve only put the Duke game on at 6:45. He was ready for 60 minutes. Laugh, Golly. 12 after the hour. Mad Dog Unleashed.